Welcome to Amazonia Communication Network, the most educational and anti-colonial revolutionary TV in sub-Saharan Africa. This primetime event will begin momentarily. We urge our viewers to stand by. Our primetime event begins now. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. In the late 1970s, Seseku Shea Dr. Christmas Ebony began his career as an economics, history, and literature teacher at King Aqua College in colonial Cameroon's economic capital of Douala. As an educationist, this Ambazonian patriarch would eventually join the Cameroon Civil Service in 1987 and be assigned as economics teacher at Government High School, Mundimba. Seseku Ebony would soon gain the administration of his peers, who will very quickly make him the head of the school's economics department. Once he began noticing the infringement of French Cameroon upon southern Cameroon's Anglo-Saxon educational system, Dr. Ebony would waste no time expressing his discontent. In December 1989, Seseku Ebony would organize one of the first Amazonia teacher revolts, the D12 Teachers Revolution. He will eventually be arrested and locked up alongside his other peers, George Ngwane, Mingat Tabanyong, and Njong Sebastian. These men were arrested with him by the colonial Cameroon government for barely writing a viewpoint that opposed the autocratic government in Yaoundé and its CPDM party. It must be noted that all this happened before the launch of the Social Democratic Front, the SDF, of Ni John Fruity. This short history, ladies and gentlemen, is meant to give a backdrop of how far back the mind of this senior citizen of Ambazonia was focused on the injustice exerted upon his people. Without elaborating too much on his involvement over the years in the independence quest of Ambazonia, Dr. Ebony's tenure with this liberation war cuts very deep. It spans generational lines. In 1993, this senior citizen helped organize the first all-Anglophone conference, the AAC1, that took place in Buea. He will again be deeply involved in the organization of the 1994 AAC2 in Bamenda. At the AAC2 conference, Doctor will eventually be part of the team that will put together the list for the Foncha delegation that subsequently goes to the United Nations in 1995. That trip was to submit a formal request for the dissolution of all ties between French Cameroon and the former British Trust Territory of Southern Cameroon. This brief history, therefore, informs that the senior citizen has been heavily indebted over the years in his country and would do every possible thing within his power to see that Ambazonia prevails. It is in this backdrop that Seseku Ebony continues to speak and consistently remain engaged with every facet of Ambazonia's liberation war. The senior citizen who holds the Ambazonian Governing Council under the leadership of Dr. Cho Ayaba, in very high regard, released the following statement about 7 days once ACN announced the programming of this primetime event. Seseku wrote, "There is just so much about the Ambazonian Governing Council and the ADF. They seem to have very strong high-energy supporters, just as much as their enemies are fierce and forceful. There are accusations and counter-accusations against the AGOV-C, ADF, and its leader, Dr. Cho Ayaba. Are there any merits to those accusations? Do we take a risk just dismissing and ignoring them? Is there a process for getting out some truths about these things per the Anglo-Saxon culture or system we are fighting and dying over? I left America and went to the field in Cameroon to begin political activism for this revolution on the ground. In the then battlefield of peaceful advocacy and resistance, our weapons of war then were our courage, intellectual strength, strategic engagements, mental capability, psychological awareness, a structured intelligence network, heavy reliance and trust on each other, and moral restraints even towards the enemy. We today face great challenges at this phase of the revolution because of the quality and styles of engagements. This realization should get us towards trying to push and shape things to function better, understanding the terrains and realities of the era, but still making things happen and go our way in spite of all the challenges and dangers. Ambazonians need and deserve to have clear, open, and honest answers to their concerns, perceived allegations and stories of progress, and hope from those who present as leaders in this revolution. That is the Anglo-Saxon way. Lack of this is what we hold against the enemy trying to absorb us. With a view to all the above, Comrade Cho Ayaba and myself will be having a frank talk session to discuss issues in the revolution, the activities of the Ambazonia Governing Council and the Ambazonia Defense Forces within the revolution, and the many existing allegations against them. We go into this raw. Comrade Ayaba does not know what I will bring to throw at him, and I do not know what he might bring to throw at me. Transparency and accountability, honesty and integrity in public affairs and public service are all the qualities and values we are fighting and dying over." Those were the words of Seseku Dr. Ebony. On Wednesday, April 14, 2021, Dr. Cho Ayaba returned the acknowledgement in a short message released at about 11 a.m. Ambazonia time. Dr. Cho Ayaba informed the people of Ambazonia of same. The leader of Ambazonia's Liberation War, president of the Ambazonia Governing Council, and Commander-in-Chief of the Ambazonia Defense Forces also wrote the following as he announced his availability to speak with the senior statesman. Fellow Ambazonians, on Sunday, April 18, I will do an extensive interactive broadcast that will cover a wide range of issues. First, be assured that under my leadership, not an inch of your land shall ever be ceded. We look forward to increasing the size of Ambazonia until occupiers pay for their illegal tenure. You must understand that the forces against you are powerful, shameless, and small-minded. Yet take pride in the fact that if you can humiliate Cameroon, crumble its international reputation, and crumble its economy, then you can put to shame all the internal and external disruptions and give back Ambazonia to its people. On Sunday, we will cover the following areas. 1. Expanding the stabilization force and its relevance in our victory. 2. Collapsing Cameroon's economy. 3. Strategic relevance of the Biafra Alliance. 4. State of our War of Liberation. Finally, The leader promised that his discussion with Dr. Ebony will also involve the intersection between the liberation and the transition phases and the exploration of where collaboration in this area is possible. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the pleasure of the Ambazonia Communications Network to introduce our guests of the day, senior citizen, pioneer revolutionary and philanthropist, Sesiku Dr. Christmas Ebony, and the leader of Ambazonia's Liberation War and Commander-in-Chief of the Ambazonia Defense Forces, Dr. Cho Ayaba.
Hello. How are you doing, Comrade Ayaba?
Good to see you, comrade.
Okay, I'm sitting right here in one of your studios, and
Yeah,
thank you for the honor.
no, my pleasure, and thanks for making this possible. I hope we are going to have a great discussion.
Yeah, we are moderators ourselves, as I was told, so there's nobody moderating us. The technician is
Yes,
just doing the technical work if we run into trouble. So we're going to moderate. I already said that I don't know what you're bringing for me. At least you were kind enough to tell me the parameters along which you'll be talking, so I should not fear anything as far as my person is concerned. But you do occupy executive leadership at this very crucial moment of our history. And I honor your service and your sacrifices very much at this time. But as you know, when I was coming to this conversation, a lot of people were sending messages from Ground Zero and around here. So I'm going to, you already know my esteem towards you, but then again, we are in a revolution that we don't own. We are working for a nation and for a people. So my hope is that I am in retirement when it comes to leadership, active leadership. I am here in support. My generation is here in support of your generation to be able to accomplish this task without handing it over to another generation. And I hope that we would be able to, like you are doing so well, you are able to tap whatever you can tap from people like us who are still around and standing. I say, like, when I say people like that, I'm not, I mean, Biden is that old. I'm just in my 60s. I'm not yet 70s. But if you hear some Ambazonian want to use age against me, you think that I'm older than Paul Biya. But that's still good. There's a lot of blessings. So I want to thank you very much for coming up for us to do this in the interest of our people. I hope we'll be open. There are some hard questions or facts that I might want you to address. We are doing that in the interest of maybe making the ADF and your leadership a little more better. And in order to bring aspects of the revolution that are very challenging, more manageable.
thanks a lot,
Doctor?
Siseko. Yes, thanks a lot. Yeah, as I said to you, I usually have interactions, whether there are interviews or interviews like these ones, without pre-knowledge of any question or issues that will arise. I'm hoping that you should be as frank and bullish as possible. And I think, as you have said, and rightly too, it must be held accountable on all aspects. And we must welcome and embrace constructive and positive inquiries that seek to clarify issues, whether there are policies or actions. And this is the kind of vibrant society that we want to create. I think I've known you for maybe close to 30 years, the first spokesperson of the SCYL, Christopher Batango. That's through whom I came to know your name. And we've had our ups and downs, but with mutual respect. And I hope that such an atmosphere exists between most Amazonians. I hope today we are going to have a very, very in-depth discussion, not on issues that are bound, but how we move forward from this particular point. Because what is critical at this stage, effectiveness on the ground, on the guns of the enemy, undermine their billionsly massacre and run our land with impunity. So I'm grateful to be here with you, and I want to also honor your service to your services as human being. But the greatest thing about humanity is to recognize this and work extremely very hard to make ourselves, perfect. So good to have you here. And so, in terms of age, I give you to begin the tough talk questions or whatever issue you want to raise.
Okay, let's begin with a little public service announcement here. Talk to our people that we are hit with a double whammy. We have not just the war of genocide that is being carried out against our land and our people. We also have this virus that some of us don't sleep very much, wondering with lack of medical infrastructures and all that kind of stuff, and the bad governance that is in place in Cameroon, what that would do to our people. So we can only do our best. I mean, the misinformation and disinformation and conspiracy theory abounds. It's all over the place. When I talk to people in Cameroon, they're against vaccines and all the like. So we can use occasions like this to plead with them. I'm here with my mask. So please, please, please wear your mask when you go out in Cameroon. Just also with our people here in America, we have a lot of COVID deaths in our community here. So if the vaccine comes out, get the vaccine. I am fully vaccinated. My household is fully vaccinated, and we feel a little safer knowing that we are vaccinated. We are begging with our people to take COVID, especially those in Cameroon, to take COVID seriously. We are very worried. We don't know the extent to which this is going to get down in Cameroon. We get patchments of deaths here and there, but we are very worried and concerned for our soldiers, the brave ones who are fighting, and for our people displaced in the refugee camps, those in jail, and the suffering ones on the ground.
Yeah, I agree with you. So this is where we begin with this public announcement. Wear your mask, Amazonians. Maintain social distancing. Wash your hands regularly, and make sure you avoid large gatherings, especially indoors. Our forces must maintain a strong perimeter around their camps to avoid intruders from getting in. And so this is critical because we are dealing with a vicious regime that has demonstrated in the past that it could export within our homeland those infected with HIV. And we also know that even if the vaccines are made available for free, people will be the last to receive. So we must maintain some kind of social distancing once we interact with strangers, use hand sanitizers, and make sure that at any time we have our mask when we are out in public or in close environments with strangers.
Okay, last time you and I had this talk, I think in Brittany, in my one of the conference rooms in my office with Comrade Yerima, VP Yerima. I just want to use this opportunity to introduce here who is helping in the technical field, and he will be helping, giving me some notes to my childhood friend, Presley. And he's
Mhm.
right here. He's come from Dallas for this occasion and other occasions. Last time when I sent an invitation and you accepted that you were coming to the US, he flew from Dallas to come here to meet with you and VP Yerima. But
Why you
unfortunately,
have him on camera?
come on. He's sitting and wearing his mask.
I'm putting on my
Give him a
mask.
seat. Hey, comrade, let him have a seat. Let's have
He was there the other time. You remember? You saw the face.
Yes, yeah. Good to see you again. Have a seat. Join the conversation.
No, I'm helping at the technical control.
All
He's
right.
around. He's around.
Okay, that's
I'm
wonderful.
around. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
One other thing that you're not coming here cheated me the other time was that one thing people should know that revolutionaries also are people who can have fun. We are not that boring, and we do take time off to entertain our brains so that we keep focus. So we're not a very boring people. When I had polished my saxophones. That when you guys came, I was going to play my saxophone with you and all that kind of stuff, but you ended
Oh
up not
God.
coming. So I decided that I'm practicing. I just got introduced to a new instrument, musical instrument. This is called, some people say it's keyboard, but it's called a melodica.
Okay.
And I learned about this instrument from a little Hispanic child that I work with who also played. So when he was playing it, I got attracted to it and I bought mine. So to break the ice here, I'm going to make a little sound with it for you and for your soldiers and for your ADF. Some of them have fought with you. You should tell people that you and I fought a little bit too. We are not here that we've always been friends all the time, right?
I know. I know.
So let me just make a little sound, then we go to serious matter.
All right.
Okay, that's a little bit in honor of you, Commander in Chief, and for our suffering people and the soldiers. That
Thanks a
tells you
lot.
when we get there are a lot of things we're going to enjoy, and I hope you do take time to for exercise and to feed your mind with things that are non-revolutionary things to give you the balance.
Well, I breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but you know, there are other activities that I undertake on a daily basis. So thanks for offering that advice.
Okay, so one of the challenges we have in this revolution today is divisiveness, division, and it's so toxic that 100% of our energy that we put into this revolution, I would say 60 to 70% is us fighting against ourselves, us building conspiracy theories against each other, us trying to blackmail each other, or just vilifying somebody who does not buy your idea. And that was one of the reasons why I took interest to invite you and Comrade Yerima, VP Yerima, for the summit that we're to have here in DC so that we can try to contain and try to manage the appearance or the reality of the division amongst us. What went wrong with that, comrade? With the collaboration between you and VP Yerima?
Lack of respect, and recognition. Uh, you know, in a liberation struggle, we have respect for individuals not only based on their contribution and the load of work that they carry, but we have respect also based on their humanity. And I think that despite being the president of the AGOVC, I accepted to work with Comrade Yerima as the vice president of the IG with utmost respect for his personality. We are more than 20 years, and we must understand that for the past 20 years, Comrade Yerima has been fighting against me tooth and nail. But once he became appointed, I let bygones be bygones, and I said, "This is a new era. Let's work together." But I still realize that that disrespect and a sense of entitlement was still very much apparent. And one of my shortcomings in this struggle is not have been to also position myself in the kind of ways that the other leaders do. Because in terms of the burden, what I carry, most of them don't. In terms of the sacrifice and experience, they don't. But despite these realities, I realize they have very little respect for my leadership, for my person. And one of the ways of protecting myself is to draw the line. And I decided that if there would be any relationship between, personalities, my vice president will work with Comrade Yerima as the vice president of the IG, and I will deal directly with Siseko as the president of the IG. And I think I drew that line more than 6 months ago.
So, when you say disrespect, are you saying that Comrade Yerima does not show you the respect?
None of them does. None of them. I think, including yourself, you people have not given me the kind of respect that I've given you people, and this is why we have this divisiveness. You see, I have treated you first like a big brother. I treated you also like someone that has been very long in the struggle. I treated even Siseko, who came in new, with utmost respect and was willing to work with him and under him if he just had the right formula. I treated Dr. Sako as a newbie with utmost respect. And they have mostly orchestrated all sort of machinations, denigrating me in all form, shape, my education, my person. And I think the reason why I have avoided engaging in these diatribes is because I have felt and I still feel is the kind of distraction that is necessary to derail them from their path to freedom. And I think it's not only Comrade Yerima. It cuts across. It cuts across. If you see,
So
if you read when they write about me, whether it's Tasang even in prison, you see how denigrating some of them refer to me, and I think I've drawn the line. I would be focused on the liberation, make my own honest contribution towards our freedom, and avoid as much as possible some of these irritations.
So you even feel the lack of respect from me too, towards your person?
Yes. If you ever respected me based on my contribution, my personality, some of the things that you, when the IG was set up, you people could have recognized that on the other side of the eye is the leader of the government, is somebody with, and your actions, whether individually or collective platform of the IG, would have been different. If you see my actions with respect to Siseko Ayub Tabe, it was totally different because I recognize you don't need to be telling, because a man and there was an Obama. So people come new and change the situation. And so I couldn't have in any way disrespect Seseko simply because he was new. I know that there are times that people are introduced in a struggle and they bring more energy into the struggle. But I don't think there was any consideration for most of you who gave your loyalty and support to the IG. It was just like, my leadership should be eliminated, my person should be eliminated. They were dead threats. None of you came out and called them up. That you can't, what do you complain as the divisive tendencies today was built by you people? The arrogance, the entitlement, the kind of inept that's in the liberation struggle. And today we are feeling the pain of what you people built. And what I also need is for you people to come out, take responsibility, apologize to our people, and let's move forward.
So you felt like you were not validated when the moment of noise, I should call it noise, because that at the time you walked in the background. People did not know that I was communicating with you. And one thing I remember very much, I never warmed up with certain things about Akwanga. And when there was a case at the international court came up, I said something that you told me, bro, but the man suffered a lot. Do you remember our conversation then? You were his Secretary General then, I think.
No, I was the Secretary General of the SCY. I was the Secretary General of the SCYL, and he. Yes, and this is what I told you, and I still say it today. You can't denigrate Akwanga. It's like I will not allow that you be denigrated. That's a man on all of us have spent 7 years in jail. He spent 7 years in jail, and he was subjected to torture. He fought for the university. He got dismissed on all of us our behalf. And so when we move forward and there are weaknesses that we notice, we cannot totally not recognize some of the positive contributions that people like himself have made. But even people like Akwanga, okay, forget about myself, because I didn't spend 7 years in jail. When you come into a struggle and you find veterans like Dr. Akwanga who spent 7 years in jail, you humble yourself, no matter who you are. But the seed of the divisiveness was planted by people who have no respect for those who sacrificed their entire life, their entire being, to make sure that what we are talking about today was never buried. And I think we never responded. We never, and we have never, and I don't think it will ever be necessary for us to respond. But I hope that one day they have recognition for what they have done to our people and our struggle.
It sounds more like the accusation of entitlement that you are talking about, putting it on the people whom you call the newbies. It's more like it's you and Akwanga who felt entitled and maybe get angry when you were not validated, or you felt you were not validated, because your names were always top of our discussions, as far as I know.
Yeah. No,
when they were talking of you guys were outside, it pained us that you were not inside.
First, we don't need validation. History does that in its own cruel or nice way. Second, if we were ever entitled, we will never, I would have never called Dr. Akwanga. And if this thing fails, we are to blame. Let us allow Seseko to take over the realm on condition that we all sit together and have him elected. If Akwanga felt entitled that he must be, we shouldn't have accepted that. I called Bo Herbert the same, and he accepted that we should allow Seseko, and for two reasons. One, he's from Manyu. Manyu is a very flamboyant state. It's a critical state in our war of liberation. Number two, you remember, I think 1996, understanding that the first leader has to come from the Atlantic states. We agreed that long time ago. And I told this gentleman, this is the time for us to let Siseko take over. And I communicated that to the Siseko team, if we will meet the founding fathers of SCACUF and get him elected. So we don't have any entitlement. We are soldiers. We are brutal soldiers to liberate the people. And I think that's where
Hold on, Doc. Hold on, Mr. President. You are telling me that your hands were behind the electing of Siseko as the leader or the chairman of the governing council?
No, that's not what
I'm talking of a governing council because that's how he came up, right?
Yes, no. We never elected him. But when what happened, and
Okay.
we criticized it. One of the things I liked about Siseko.
You mean the abduction when they were adopted to Cameroon, to La Republique?
No, before.
The fourth conclave.
Even before the fourth conclave. Before the fourth conclave. You know, the fourth conclave was the conclave that set up the IG and got Siseko as president of the IG.
Okay.
The process of setting up and then setting up the governing council.
Okay.
Now, our strategy is to find an understanding. How should we structure collaboration? Structuring collaboration was more important than getting a leader. But the strategy of the architect of SCACUF was to strengthen the waning powers of those who had left the territory. That was the strategy of SCACUF, to use the nationalists to empower the civil society leaders. And so they were not interested in the time-tested details on construction acceptable. But when Siseko was then enthroned, we disagreed because the process was flawed. But I later realized, well, we could get him elected. The 7 founding organizations could actually sit because that was the electoral college. The only people who could elect any leader were the 7 founding organizations. Anything short of that was null and void. Now, you know, we question the legitimacy of Siseko over the governing council. All Siseko, we will come together on Morris, and the Morris charter or principle was there must be a general election to elect prime minister or whatever. And I went to Bo. I said you cannot have a revolution to elect such a person have that mandate to elect. Convincing me accepted. I convinced Akwanga they accepted. But the Siseko camp did not accept. And that's how, you know, we move our own separate ways.
Okay. To be fair to our people and to make this our encounter double relevant and important, I would like that we try to talk on the more recent and serious issues. Then we can go to our chattery on other issues. Would that be okay?
That would be wonderful. That would be wonderful.
So that we put those, those things that people might feel like, hey, there's no way Dr. Bini is going to open his mouth and say that to Dr. Ayaba because he's his friend, he's afraid of him. So let's come to this Biafran stuff.
Yeah.
And I know you did. I had my concern, and you did privately the eve of it. I think it was the eve of it. You did brief me. We had a private briefing, and I felt, and you told me some other people that you briefed too.
Yes.
Although as a leader, when I get leaders who can be progressive and who can listen to the citizens and all the like, as a senior, that's where my senior, to be older, to be an old man does not mean that you're a senior citizen. You could still be an old man who is not really engaged, who is enabling, and who is who is engaged in the woke culture. That's to say, you preach all these values and morality, and you see evil and you say nothing and you do nothing about the evil. That's the woke culture. You know it all, but you do nothing to either condemn or to stop or to recreate. So I am blessed that I don't engage in that. Just like you two, I don't mind carrying the cross of being a victim of blackmail and all that kind of stuff, because there are a lot of people who were friends with me who are no longer friends because they know that I talk to you, and that is not something that I should regret. But I want to know, really, for you to really take some time and respect your own people, and take this moment that we have now to try to even brief the least educated amongst us to understand the wisdom of you forming or taking us into this alliance at this time with the Biafrans, or so-called Biafrans. I don't know what I should say, so-called or the Biafrans, because I don't know how active their resistance is on the ground or even internationally. I see pockets of it. But just educate most of us. I have my education, I have my place with you. I have my bias. Because when I put it all together after everything, I do appreciate your language, your style, and some of the things, the way you say certain things. And I think your group is kind of organized in a way that we can pick something from. So, what is it that we should be looking into? What are the risks? What are the advantages of us getting into the union that you are taking us with Mr. Nnamdi Kanu at this time? I got a briefing from you. Not every Ambazonian is privy to having the interactions that I have or the access that I have with leadership, right? And my word, with the atmosphere that we have now, my word of trying to explain my understanding is only seen as me trying to shield or to cover up for a leader that I support. And I don't like being in that position. So let's use this time wisely now, and let's talk the Biafran issue talk about Mr. Nnamdi Kanu and the Biafran movement.
First, let me take it from a generalist perspective. When people are up, and historically, when we look at other liberation struggles, they have sought alliances with domestic actors, with movements, alliance with states, and the biggest deficiency in the Ambazonian struggle is the failure in leadership, including my own leadership, to establish for Ambazonia the kinds of alliances that can help them attain their freedom in the shortest and less costly manner possible. Leadership has been more focused in the consolidation of power, in propaganda, in PR campaigns. Liberation leadership is focused in building underground alliances for supply of weapons, for getting of money, for engaging in training, and for helping their people defend their humanity and their dignity. Not what we are doing here is not leadership. This is when you see me here. This is, you know, sometimes I hear people shout Ayaba, Ayaba. No, I am not close. I am not close to that point of revolutionary and liberation leadership when we look at history. And I have asked the question, if I would take out 100 La Republique soldiers, they are on the street somewhere, and the ICC is concerned about it, would Seseko Christmas Abini still have this conversation with me in public? If you hear one day that the ICC is having concern about my actions, would you be able to still say, you know, Dr. Choayaba? That is the moment when you know a leader has reached the point of liberation and revolutionary tenet of leadership. All what we've been doing here is what I call quarter politics. There is a talk of a bold step towards that revolutionary realm of leadership and action that could lead to independence. You get the people being frightened because they are not at state, that frame of mind yet in a nationalist struggle for liberation. Our people make a frame of mind that we are in a liberation struggle, a nationalist campaign to end occupation. And then when you reach that state, when you see they make it in London that I went to sell oil, find people should rise up and say, well, if you were selling 230 to 10, you hear when they say you are building an alliance with the people that are your only and closest friendly neighbor, the only closest and friendly neighbor with many years of experience in the struggle for nationalist liberation. We are not scared because they are bad. We are scared because it angers the same oppressor we want to dismantle in our land. These are generalist tendencies that we should understand. When Mandela was engaging with the Cubans, he knew it would anger the Americans. He knew it. You know, when Zanana was engaging with other countries, including even Australia, the Americans were supporting the Indonesians because there was geopolitical and strategic relevance for the United States and Britain to support Indonesia against East Timor than supporting East Timor. Eritrea, agents in Ethiopia to overthrow the government. How would Ambazonia embrace it when they hear tomorrow that I am supporting insurgents in Cameroon to overthrow the Biya regime? They would come out with blackmail. So let me now situate this in perspective. Any country that colludes with Cameroon to perpetuate genocide and the colonialism of our country, if we have the opportunity to collude with internal domestic opposition of their own country to undermine their political power, we will do so. Any country that can enable genocide enables the perpetration of Cameroon's colonialism in Ambazonia, we will reciprocate internal opposition within that country to undermine the political power of that country. That's number one. And I have also seen Nigeria arrest Ambazonians again and deports them. We will do the same in Ambazonia, except they are Biafrans, but we will notify Biafra. You kidnap Ambazonians in Nigeria and the colonial regime, put them in jail, we will reciprocate in Ambazonia. The third point is this. As I said the other time, not only Biafra, we are going to reach out to the Yorubas within the context of Pompo to make sure the construct of statehood within the continent that was predicated on violence, death, murder of people must be right for peoples within states that their only weapon of choice is violence have the opportunity, to assert their right to self-determination, and so that hold is constructed on the premise. For Biafra, we are not deciding what they want. They make their choices. But we all know within Biafra land, we all know secretly all what we do is from them. So while we deal with them in secret, it is not onions. You like to accept those things under the table that can help you free yourself. But when the Biafrans to self-determination, now I understand that Amazonians are worried. One, we were part of the Eastern House. We received maltreatments from the Biafrans. Also, truth, Britain stole us into servitude, and we are still on Downing Street begging them to raise. Isn't it true that the French are the primary perpetrators and of the Yaoundé regime, and we are hailing their parliamentarians in Amazonia? Isn't that and we are for their parliamentarians when they speak of our? Why are we going to hold the curse on the some systems of discrimination and dominance from them? All the people we're dealing with, we have historical experiences with them. States that are refugees, our people. It has been pumping money to the regime, even being one of the most vocal countries against the occupation of Amazonia. So we have experiences with these countries. And how do we learn from those experiences and build future alliance and speed up the day that La Republique ends its presence in our country? Our relationship with Biafra is within the relation phase, as I said. And those discussions will be dealt with in private. We're offering Biafra nothing. The greatest thing is something because Biafrans they are hated across the globe. They are undermined. They are and they in a positive way. So I think there is nothing, as people say, we're offering Bakassi. No, there really no discussion. There has never been any discussion on anything, whether asset, resources. We help each other, to speed up that whole school comes to an end.
So, if I understand you fully, people should not count on the benefits of this alliance just on your appearance on a joint press conference. There are things that can be beneficial that are done out of the lens of the camera.
I will say I don't press conferences for PR campaign. I don't have discussions with other leaders to make myself feel good. When I speak to us, I am looking for any support, diplomatic, political, hardware, logistics wise, that can help us the lives of our people, protect our territory. Speak with the Biafrans, it is what is it that can benefit in it is this kind of relationship what is it for us to kind of a public display of what substantially will be taking place in the background?
So you feel down that the fear about what they might do in retaliation against our people that have flooded their refugee camps now is misplaced, or that they will block our route of transport, our routes that we use to get materials through and all that stuff. Are those concerns misplaced?
You know, Seseko, remember when I went to Daddy, you had all the fears, all the worries. I understand when Ambazonians are worried, but I'll appeal to them to trust the wisdom behind some decisions that I make, because they are subject to a lot of scrutiny from the organization. Before this, there are lengthy discussions with top leadership within the organization. Some were also worried, so it's not like the general population being worried alone. But on two things: one, our refugees. Nigeria is not a respecter of international law, so I cannot say, the refugees are subject to the protection under international law. But I hope that, where they are, they continuously be safe. It's my leadership that has taken this decision. Nigeria must continue to respect its obligation under the 1951 Geneva Convention. It violated that when it deported Seseko and others like Benji and Nelson and the others back from Nigeria. We hope that it will not do the same again. And as I have said, there will be replication if that happens. On the issue of routes, I don't want to have that kind of discussion on the air, but I think we are just fine.
Okay, thanks, Doc. And since you brought it up, and if you are comfortable talking about it, the big oil deal. The big London oil deal. Let's hear about it, Doc, if you're comfortable about it. Anything that,
yes.
Doc, listen, we are not here for a fight as much as we want to talk openly and frankly. Anything that you are not comfortable about that is too personal for you, let me know. Don't let me just, because I'm looking around. You are already my friend. I am providing this service to the community of people who don't like you, people who don't know you, and people who are only exposed to information from your enemy or the misinformation that exists out there. So if there's anything that I bring up, I am in my own strategic way trying to use this. And when we learn, it will be different. That I hope I've presented you in a way that you can become a better leader, you can run a better organization like the ADF, because we are all subject to improving. Even me too, as an old man, there are a few things that I reflect at night that I might have done wrong and I try to correct and all that kind of stuff. So you brought it up, you started when you were talking about the Biafra, brought up the London oil deal that was all over the place. I was already waiting to come and see what I can use part of the money to open some mental health clinics, because our people will need a lot of those as we are getting into independence.
First, my apologies. I'll be looking at my phone time and again. And I know I'm being told that some advisors are letting me know. So if that continues, let me know I'm changing network. The first thing you have to know is Seseko, is if I ever went to sign an oil deal, you wouldn't have ever. That's the first thing. The second thing is, if I ever sign an oil deal, you will not have the chance to sit with me on this platform. being in the jungle. That's the second. The third, if any leader in our war of independence has the opportunity to establish an understanding for the exploration and exploitation of our natural resources in exchange for the kind of support that would be needed to speed up the demise of Cameroon, protect the lives of our people, they should go for it, but with due diligence and oversight. That is critical. Any leader with that kind of access could go for it. It will not be the first time in a liberation struggle when a movement has an understanding with investors who are willing to pump in financial support for future exploration and exploitation of natural resources to help them attain, their political objective. Lastly, no, I have never had the opportunity within the context of the last 4 years to engage in any discussion on our natural resources in exchange for any kind of support. I think I've engaged in discussion on post-independence development, like looking at issues of the construction of our first international airport, deep seaport. We have been exploring those kinds of stuff, and we have been discussing with external partners on what that could entail. So the London oil deal was a prank. In the last 4 years, undermine my leadership, and they pulled that one up in a very good way. But I think time has been able to expose the diabolic nature of what the plan was all about. Amazonia should be confident that if I will find such a deal, there are stakeholders that I will speak to. There are individuals that I will speak to. In the same way I did with the Biafran issue, I consulted all the necessary stakeholders, those whose knowledge matters, those whose opinion matters. I reached out to them, I spoke to them, I assured them, and I told for our best interest and appealed to them, to understand. If that will happen, I will do the same. You see, the kind of country we want to build, if I am taken out of this liberation struggle today, let's say I'm killed, and any understanding I have had with whosoever will be a burden to the Amazonian people, or will be a burden to anyone who inherits my position. And so there is necessity for leadership at this stage, even though there is necessity for secrecy, but to make sure you identify within our liberation struggle individuals whom you think matter in their opinion, in their advice, are critical, and can give you, a roadmap on how to get things done in a better way. There has never been any oil deal, and I think we all know by now that the saga in London was a prank, and it stops there.
Okay. Thanks so much for taking that on.
So what do you think, Seseko? When you me being on the street of London, did we say
you are a revolutionary leader, and the unfortunate thing is that if we were very organized and we were true to ourselves, we would have a pool of our revolution in one center, right? Where everybody does not go left and right individually. So when I saw that, I had no feeling. I said, as a leader, all the leaders in this revolution would go somewhere if they call them for something that concerns the revolution. Like you said, the consultation was not done through that prank. Consultation comes when you even go through the prank to go and see if there's anything tangible about that before you start consulting with the people that matter. So that was my thinking then, and it's still my thinking now. I left Cameroon 1994. We were not at this level of our revolution, even though the resistance was building up. I was appointed, leaving Cameroon, coming here. I was told to become the international representative of the struggle. And I was given a sign, I don't know whether I was notarized by that, a signed power of attorney to enter into any deal that can help facilitate the independence of Southern Cameroon. So that is my mindset, and I put you in context that those structures that would have had then don't exist now. And everybody is moving on. It is to our interest for us to make the necessary sacrifices to have at least 60 to 70% of a place that we call a unity forum, that I can hold you accountable. All the people shouting at you, right? When you are struggling or your boys are dying, they don't help. They don't give you, they don't contribute to try to get you to feed your people. It's just noise. That's the way I look at it. So there's a lot of noise. Some of it come from me too, towards people that I don't agree with, right? There was once my noise came towards you when you did not agree with me on what I wanted you to agree with. So those things happen, and all that we have to do is that we self-restrain, we self-contain ourselves, so that at every time we rise above ourselves to looking at the bigger picture, to looking at the globality of our struggle instead of our personal comfort. And leadership goes through a lot. I'm not sitting in your chair. I'm not sitting in the chair of most of the people, although there are some fake people who call themselves frontline leaders. They are not doing anything, but they are frontline leaders. Those who are really leaders go through a lot. Those who are really leaders, in quote, because there are people who are leaders on paper, and they do no work, and they account for nothing. So you are here today talking to me because you want to be accountable, even for the right things that you know you did right, and even for those that people praise you over. So that's always my mindset, and it's, you know, that whenever I have something, you have an open channel that I come to you to talk, like some of the other leaders. There are some that I had that relationship, but they are severed because of their behavior. Maybe it might rebuild someday. But Mr. President, the technical people are saying that there is a little hitches with your system, so we're going to take a little technical break for them to fix you up, and then we'll come back.
I have changed the system, so maybe it works now. I've switched the network.
Okay, so we don't need a break. They say it's changing. Okay. All right. So let me ask you, what is it? Why were your boys all over General RK? What did he do?
That's a good one. I'm not sure why they were, and some of them I have told them to mind their own business. You know, and I always say we have to show respect for the independence of other groups. And as I said today, the existence of these other defense forces is a positive critical ingredient in our national defense strategy. And I've always called on our communication persons, if there is an issue that concerns other groups, especially those that are not overtly antagonistic to us, reach out to them behind the scene. And you should be able to have clarity and let them speak for those groups. And so I don't agree that we should always be talking about others, especially when we don't have the fullest of information. I know there are certain information that are of public interest, but there are certain protocols that I expect my communicators to follow. If you hear something concerning a group, reach out privately if it's of public interest and get clarity. If you feel like the clarification is not consistent with your own reality, make sure that you ask the group to issue a public statement and clarify. And if they don't, and if you must go out, you must conduct yourself in a way that shows respect for them, but that also shows that you are doing this for public interest. And so I would think that we should the AGOFC leadership and the spokespersons and all those concerned should take a distance, take a step back, and we should support, if we can, other struggling groups. If they accept our support, if they don't, we should provide our communication support. We should provide our moral support. We should speak for all the forces on the ground because they are defending their bloc. That's what we conceive, So I think it was unfortunate, but I hope that we have learned our own lesson from such issues.
So do you always take time to listen to most of the broadcasts on air messages that come from I'm not some of your members. I'm not calling them surrogates because that could have a very different connotation. But are you privy? I know you're a busy man, being the leader at such a very challenging time. You might not be able to know even what is going on with most of these outings of your members, right?
Not to the fullest, because I can't sit and watch my press secretary, speak for an hour above, or the DDC go out and speak, or the spokesman. But if there are issues, I usually get briefed by policy or communication advisors. They usually brief me on some of those issues. So I'm basically aware, and if there are issues that I find concerning, I usually have them in a meeting. We discuss the merit of their articulations, and sometimes, though they might be controversial, sometimes they are right. It's just like when you criticize Ayaba, not all criticism that is levied against me is repugnant. Like when people question the Biafran issue, I have an obligation, to explain myself. Except when people deliberately pour out lies. And I also think, and I have said this to other movements, we have an obligation to criticize policy. I'm not for criticizing individuals or in their integrity, who they are married to, where they eat, how they dress. That's not important. But their policy, if a policy we find it, give an example. Let's say the IGK develops a policy that does not impinge on AGOFC and on Ambazonia. We simply just move forward. If they develop a policy that might impinge on Ambazonia and the AGOFC, of course, we have an obligation first to have a behind-the-scene discussion, that is also how we do it. And if we do not agree on its validity and its out, we have an obligation to publicly criticize it. And we welcome other parties to engage in discussions about that particular issue. Take another example. When the issue of Biafra came up and there were criticism, I asked the ACN, which I have always advised to be independent, not to become the spokes channel for the AGOFC. I asked the ACN to invite those who are opposed to it and those who are for it, and to have a meaningful discussion that can educate our people to come to a level of understanding, not acceptance. So I have always tried as much as possible, to moderate what goes out, to be able to recalibrate what has gone out, and to make amends when things go out that are out of place.
Would you be angry at me if I told you? I mean, most of your guys too are my friends, because they do send me their messages almost every time. I do get. I appreciate that, and I know I respect you. You have shown me as a junior comrade and a son or whatever in this revolution, you've always shown me the respect. But is it possible for me to tell you that about 60%, 60 to 70%, is he on? That about 60 to 70% of most of the time when I watch the outings of the communications from the ADF, they are very powerful, they are very on point, but unfortunately, they are directed inwardly against us, what we disagree with, and against the enemy. In a previous conversation I had with you, and I agree with you that sometimes the opposition and the noise that the other people put out there can be very damaging if you sit quiet. Is it possible for the energy of our communication team in the ADF? Forgive me, I've always had this mixture of ADF and AGOV-C and all. I should refer to them separately, or they are just one and the same, right?
No, ADF is the army.
Okay.
So you should refer to AGOV-C. And
AGOV-C
then those who communicate, yes, those who come for the army speak on behalf of what they call the War Council. So the ADF is the army, the AGOV-C is the governing liberation movement.
And you are the supreme leader of all of it.
I am the president of AGOV-C, the commander-in-chief of the army, but you have the chairman of the War Council who presides over the army, and that's how it's structured. The AGOV-C has different centers of power, almost 3 centers of power.
So it's a very complex network.
It's very complex. So it's very complex.
Okay, can I appeal? Use this forum. I could do it still on the background because there's good energy in your network. There's good energy. Whether ADF, AGOV-C, good energy, and some of the people I like them. I mean, I interact with them on a regular basis, and I think besides all the nuances that we have amongst ourselves, there is a template that could be followed in setup that seem to exist. Would your setup, if it's functioning very well without the nuances of us fighting each other? So is it possible that it is set up in a way that there should be a response place that is very minimal, not very much, for internal issues, and then the rest be used that energy towards whether it's propaganda against the enemy or everything about the enemy, or diplomacy that is neutral, that has nothing to do with our infighting? Because I want to really listen to most of the things. You guys make good speeches. Before this, we started the war. You remember I used to tell you how I have some little girls here who say, oh, the Sisi go down a revolution. I like to listen to somebody where they talk Chua Yaba. I say, oh, yeah, that's my little man. So, but those good things, those good speeches get buried in this our infighting. So, is it possible to minimize the communication on our infighting so much that a lot of the energy is used for the actual war against the enemy? I'm not saying that you turn the other cheek when those vicious attacks are brought against you and all the like, but that is not your focus on everyday communication that comes out that people get from your network.
Yes, but I will have an exception. How minimal can you be when an entire movement comes out and says your leader was just in La Republique? and that all the weapons that they have evidence that it comes from La Republic. How minimal can you be? And that's where it's difficult to draw the balance. Sometimes you could simply do a rebuttal, but those who say such things, are persistent. And this is what is going on. And I've prescribed. There are movements. You have Seseko's IG. We should always be minimal and respectful and disagree on policy because they are partners. You have the Morris platform. Though we don't agree, they are on their own way, but they are not like mortal enemies. When you start looking at the swamp that we have in this war, who attack prisoners, who denigrate everyone, and who have done a lot of damage using their media to manipulate our population. You see, where you sit is easy. It's very easy. Where we sit is in the trenches. And we make it easy even for you. If we were not, they would have totally wiped out the image of Seseko in jail. If we didn't stand up, if these same men, the Kapos, the Asu Lucas, didn't stand up, they would have destroyed Seseko completely. For us, my leadership, I just believe that, our work has brought us here. Not that Ayaba has become a likable person, a better person. Ambazonians have seen the persistence of our work, the product of our investment. So, Seseko, I agree with you, but this is a prescription that it's easy to make from the outside. But I think our communicators must also learn to distinguish between irritations destined deliberately to increase the schisms and propagations that are based on sound judgment. I really think I want to congratulate these communicators for the marvelous job. Despite their shortcomings, they have done to defend this revolution, the integrity of different individuals. And as they are defending publicly, they are being attacked from both ends by the same people they are defending. I know these men. I know them. They are amenable people. You call Kapo and say, hey, this is going wrong. He changes. You call Asu and say you went too far. He said, okay, I'll make amends. So, but they must grow above taking the bait from the other side to continue planting the discord that benefits them. So I think I am working very hard to ensure that there is a template established that gives our communicators, especially one person, especially the spokesman of the AGOFC, if there is a statement made against the organization, to simply come out and inform our people. Like somebody said, we traded Bakassi. It's just easy to come out that in the discussion with the Biafrans, there was no mention, no discussion on asset, property, or territory. And assure our people that that will never happen. We will not cede any part of our country. That's enough. That's enough. That's a mature way of looking at things. Rather than start talking about who the person is, if you work for who, it's irrelevant. And I think that's what I really think that they should be doing.
Okay, I mean, it's good enough you accepting to do something about it. I mean, I know it's difficult. I agree with you. And Brisney is here. I don't carry any leadership mantle at this stage in this revolution, but I get hit too. And somebody told me when you might have seen a video that they said I had gone to Cameroon last month to raise money with the CPDM elites to bring peace. And there's a video of somebody, I don't know whether that person looks like me. I looked at the person's face. I think I'm more handsome than the guy and I'm more classy than the guy that put on that video. But Anu brought it, Chris Anu brought it to me. I mean, was using it for a blackmail and said I went to Cameroon last month, not even last year. Me going to Cameroon last month to go collect money. And if you see even what they were giving as money, it did not arrive to, would not even be the amount of money that I probably might be planning to contribute to the stabilization fund or whatever. Anyway,
And this is how abusive it can be. A whole Seseko Ebini, a Manuman who is proud of his heritage and loud as he can be, and they sell you so cheap. So how do you deal with that? How do you deal? One of the good things about about time is that when I saw that stuff, I said to myself, irrelevant. Too cheap, too cheap moment.
It's really funny because there are people who believe these things, right? I've got calls all across the world. There were people, some who just called to curse me out for betraying the cause, going to Cameroon to get money from CPDM, and it's very funny. But what would you do? That is the hand that we've been dealt in this revolution now. That adventurers came from nowhere, and for whatever wrong we've done, they were placed in very strategic positions where they could make noise in this revolution. And then we cannot control to the communication, existing technology with communication, where a person who probably even cannot afford to pay rents of his home to live, to have a home or have a job, can sit behind a phone, the keyboard of the phone, and insult you and tell you that, oh, your PhD is nothing, your titles are nothing, you are a thief, you are this thing, and then it goes. And leadership too carries it, and they use the same language. So those things come from people who project themselves as leader. But I hope that your group can rise above to know that why they fight this fight, internal and external, there are some limits for us to at least maintain some constraints and make sure that we don't overdo it, that it takes away even from the efforts and the little gains that you're making. That's what I'm trying to put across. Because even me, when I go after some of these people, I look at myself so that I don't get to a point where I cannot be able to have somebody whom I can reason with.
I agree with you. I am confident. I have analyzed our evolution up till this moment. For the past 30 years that we have been in, we have been at this particular stage during some periods. The difference is we never had the kind of megaphone with the WhatsApp or any other social media outlet to make a lot of noise. I believe very strongly that despite the negative effect of this division, it has also helped us to understand who individuals are. It has made us to grow more mature in our perception of individuals and their ideas. Because I worry that under colonialism, we had become so naive that anyone who spoke for us, called our name, professed to stand for Ambazonia, we embraced them immediately and murdered all those who really have sacrificed and are still sacrificing. If we are if we watch the number of persons who held prominent positions, who have joined the enemy, who now speak for the enemy, who now bat for the enemy, the same people that were our heroes of yesterday, and we use them to tarnish the image of our real heroes of today. Even though these schisms has cost the lives of people, and it has made some of our old veteran comrades, take Dr. Yomba, his transition without being able to see a new homeland. Mola has transitioned, fought for so long without being able to see a free country. Justice Alobo de Ebon transition after declaring independence without being able to see homeland. Maybe, just maybe, if we had the right people, the right mindset, the focus, the laser focus, these men would have raised our flag in our capital. What we must worry now, and I say this to you directly, you must look at it carefully now. And I said it to Professor Carson Anyangwe. If you want to hoist our flag in Boya, you must look at what works, not what is politically convenient. What is it that works to hasten the demise of Cameroon? And if we focus on that, if we think like liberators, I can assure you, Siseko, no one can simply walk into our capital and install themselves as prime minister. No one. So there will be the.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
As I said to you once, and you know the tradition that we have had for 30 years, Ambazonians will come together. Ambazonians like to enjoy as a group. They like to have victory together. Ambazonians don't like victory alone. And I'm definitely very sure if all of us who are focused, who believe in our independence, if we are focused on the strategies that work, we will come together in the shortest time possible to put in place the kind of transitional institution that will bring together our bloggers, our victims, our prisoners of wars, our leaders, our stakeholders, our experts to begin to design the kind of institutions that will be transplanted in our homeland.
Okay, I just got this from somebody wanting me to ask you from ground zero. Sheikh Dr. Ibini, I have a very simple question. Would Dr. Cho Ayaba accept another person other than him as leader of Ambazonia? Thanks. And just putting in this question here, we can talk now about the possibility, if there still exists, of collaboration. Especially between you and Comrade VP Yerima, whose group I know that you are in full support, morally or otherwise, of our leaders in jail. And this group, besides your group, the VP Yerima's group is the one that seemed to exist to be the pro leadership in jail group. So this person's question, you might want to address what he's saying. And then again, let's talk again whether there is a possibility of us getting, I know you answered it a little bit when you say Ambazonia likes to celebrate and enjoy together, but just a little bit strategic to go inside on the logistic, if there is that possibility soon for us to be able to minimize, because the lack of collaboration too is what is feeding and giving oxygen into the crooks that we have in this revolution posing as leaders.
Now, to the question of our comrade, I think a little bit of background is essential. I have been in leadership just for the past 4 years. For my more than 30 years of experience in this struggle, and I have supported every other leader, from Kontang Elat, Ambassador Henry Fosson. You have the Muketes, you have the Justice Ebong, the Chifayambas, the Martin Gekaluma, Dr. Akwanga. I emerged just recently.
You didn't mention Professor Carl Sedanyangwe. He was president too once, you remember?
Yes, and I'm not talking about the presidents. I'm talking about
Okay. Just leaders that
I
you
have,
worked with.
yes, I've worked with every leader, and I have worked for them. I work for them. I work for John Frundi. I work for every other leader that has existed, and it has given me a lot of experience in service to know the humility of leadership. And no other leader has been battered and attacked the way that my emergence, brought. And the reason is simple: is that those I had served never for once ever thought, I could rise to the position of leadership. And I simply have been the leader or the president of the AGovC. I'm not the leader of Ambazonia. I'm the president of the AGovC and leading the Ambazonian liberation struggle. I'm the principal person leading the Ambazonian liberation struggle. But that's not a group. That's not the state.
What does that mean, Mr. President? You mean you're leading the AGovC? You see it as a group, right?
It's a
not
movement.
like
It's a
the
group.
government.
No,
It's
it's
a
a group. Yes. The
Okay, but
AGovC
you're
is a
leading,
group.
you don't lead those other groups, but you lead the Amazonia revolution.
Let me tell you what leads a revolution is the ideology. Liberation struggles are driven by ideology. They are driven by strategy. They are driven by communication. And so sometimes when you hear of Marxist Leninist ideology that drives a liberation, you discover that those people who were the architects of those ideologies are seen as the ideological godfather and leaders of those strands of liberation struggles. You see, one of the things Ambazonia must accept, and which is a reality, is the strategies, the ideologies, the articulations that has been thanks to the leadership of the Ambazonian Governing Council has been the predominant strategies and ideas that are driving this liberation struggle. Leadership is not an issue of command and control. That's why I talked about commander-in-chief of the ADF rather than commander-in-chief of the Ambazonian struggle, because commander-in-chief is a structural issue. Leadership is an ideological, strategic communication mindset that drives a particular struggle. And I don't think there is any other person within the premise of the Ambazonian struggle that holds that position, that command in driving the struggle at the level of self-defense, at the level of strategic diplomacy, and the level of popular mobilization. That does not mean I am some person on the state of Ambazonia. When it comes to whether there is any other person, I just said here, when Seseko emerged, I called others and said we should elect him as our leader. I said we should elect him as our leader. If within the premise of this struggle, there is a more vibrant person that commands, the respect and direction of the Ambazonian ground fighters, that person will be symbolically considered as the person driving our liberation struggle. In all liberation struggles, it has been the case. The dominant ideology, dominant strategic mindset, personality sometimes have not emerged. If you take, for example, the South African struggle. When you take the South African struggle, there was no dominant personality leading. There were dominant symbolic individuals like Nelson Mandela, who was a symbol of the pain of the South African people. Even Oliver Tambo, who was the leader in exile, did not come across as the person driving the ideology or the resistance. The ANC as a movement was that symbolic structure within South Africa with the predominance in terms of ideology driving the South African struggle. Same too with Eritrea. You got the Eritrean Liberation Front. That was the first movement put in place. You never heard of any of their leaders. They were not prominent individuals, but the movement were powerful. In 1978, you had the splinter faction of the EPF, which is the Eritrean People's Liberation Front. That became the dominant movement, but there were no names behind that were dominant, unlike you have in East Timor, where you have Gusmao Zanana, who became a dominant personality. So in different struggles, depending on whether they are liberation struggles or internal political agitation, they have either been a dominant ideology, dominant personality, or dominant structure that drives the liberation struggle. And so, yes, anyone with the competence and ability or with the strategic mindset, we should rally behind that person. Any person with the competence in terms of governance, to put together our economic, political, and social kind of infrastructure, we will all rally behind that person. I don't hold claim as a leader of Ambazonia. I am not. And in terms of, let me finish the other part. The other part with Comrade Yerima.
Okay.
Yes. You see, the problem in the struggle is not collaboration between AGOVC and the IG. It's not. The problem is the issue of leadership. It's the issue of leadership. The question that people want to know is, between these persons, take myself and Seseko, I don't want to, as I have said, my communication with Comrade Yerima ended maybe 6 months ago, and I don't think it will continue. There will be, if he wants to continue, we'll continue with the Vice President of the AGOVC. Through different channels, I will be communicating with the leader of the IG. And I think because there is mutual respect for each other, I respect Seseko and Seseko respects me. And for that, I'm very comfortable dealing with somebody that there is mutual respect. And I think I am bound, Dr. Cho Ayaba is bound to work with Seseko. And I think he feels the same. The two of us are critical for our liberation and post-independence stability. He's in jail. The one person that can assure Seseko's liberation is me. Because I think his liberation is going to come through the actions that, we take on the ground. Undermining La Republique's ability. His liberation will come as a trade-off. That's what happened in East Timor, when the East Timorese Gusmao was taken into custody. He's released after being sentenced to life and then reduced to 20 years in jail, and then he was released as a trade-off. I think, the activities that I lead would reach that level, because there are only two ways that Seseko can come out of jail, 2 or 3 ways. One, be thrown out like the compromised Agbobala and his comrade there in the States, sign off against Ambazonia's independence, or Ambazonia is defeated and he signs out in defeat, and compromise himself, or La Republique releases him because I say I have, and that as the case as my forces just captured two La Republique officials this evening, and took out one and collected the body. So there will come a time when there will be trade-offs. When one you would release 100 Ambazonians for one La Republique. So I think collaboration between Siseko and myself is relevant, and I am bent on making sure it's going to happen. But I also work on the possibility that because of the complexity of our struggle, that the AGOVC under my leadership in the next 4 years is able to liberate the territory by itself and reaches the transition phase where we then bring others together to establish the transitional authority, to establish the constitution, the kinds of political structures, the economic philosophy, and the kinds of things that we'll be looking forward to. I have also spoken with the Siseko camp that we should agree that Dr. G should establish working principles for us. And they accepted, and I have spoken with Dr. G and appealed to him to begin the work like he talked about the South African struggle, the various movements, including the ANC, the trade unions, the communists, came together and established 10 working principles that all of them sign off to. And Dr. G is working on that. I hope that it will be the minimum condition that all of us would say, these are things we all agree on, even going different ways, but we cannot deviate from these core principles. So there is some work in progress, and it will not be televised. And I think that we are determined to be able to push the struggle. We don't want collaboration to be the predominant discourse. It has been the predominant discourse in the past 4 years. It has not taken us anywhere. Stabilizing ground zero, arming our forces who are coming together, working together, fighting together. The political figures will find a way when the reality on the ground changes to be able to establish a framework of collaboration that can oversee, what is going on the ground.
So you're saying that there is work going on now, like you mentioned, one person, Dr. G, coming up with a package for collaboration with VP Yerima's team?
No. What we call principles, basic principles that are acceptable for the different platforms. And when I talk the different platforms, I'm looking at, the IGK. That is the principal platform that we see as the collaborating platform. So
Okay.
there are a couple of things going on. They are not far-reaching, but I'm comfortable that the spirit is good at the top, and we want to maintain that spirit. And we consult. One of the things about collaboration is not only agreeing and establishing a framework, is being able to consult on major issues, and that is also mutual respect for each other's authority. And I think we will continue in that spirit. But I really want to appeal that because that exists, we should focus our energy on arming the ground to stabilize the space, reclaim the territories lost through the work of infiltrators that were planted in our struggle.
So, you talk about arming the ground, and there are some very impressive and videos and images coming from the ADF, EDA training camp, and I see the quality of the weapons they are carrying looking sophisticated. And that is what probably the people who are trying to poke holes into the efforts of the ADF present as you going to or collaborating with La Republique, and put a disclaimer that there's nothing that I can come close to agreeing. But those guys look very sophisticatedly dressed, and the weapons are high level weapons and all. How do you get the resources with all this? Robbie, you did not benefit from my trip to Boya. That was about 1,400,000 just on declared figures, right? But this is big. This is big stuff. I'm seeing the images now, and the weapons seem to be graduating very, very fast from the Pafuk and the dead guns that we had to something serious, and these people probably, properly dressed in uniforms. So how are you able to?
No, this is nothing. This is nothing. You see, when you come from a home where all the time you've been eating cassava and a cope and plum, and you enter another house where you are served jollof rice, you think you've made progress. This is nothing. 4 years into a war, we should be presenting 5,000 men well armed with anti-aircraft guns and blazing their way on cars. This is virtually nothing. So when I see people are being scared, this is nothing. This is nothing. Amazonians have been paying for defensive actions. All what we have been doing in this struggle is to ensure defensive action. We have not reached the stage of investing in offensive action. And so, because we still have a defensive mindset, when we see these few machines, people are worried. It is an improvement, no doubt, but if the ADF had not been attacked constantly, its weapons seized, I can assure you that General Ivo was not killed. We would have captured Boya. So, an AK-47 in 1 minute firing constantly fires out 600 bullets. And buying a bullet at $1.50. So calculate that in 1 minute, you fire 600 bullets, and then multiply 600 times $1.50. That's 900. So the amount of money we are raising is not enough. It's zero. It's to maintain our position. It's just to maintain defensive position, to have a sense of dynamic control. If we multiply the amount of money that we are raising into 2, I am going to take the city of Bamenda in 2 hours. I'm going to take it in 2 hours. So Amazonians should know that we come from a society where we're all running around with din guns. If you go into Nigeria, people are holding AK-47. You there in the United States, you are holding M16. You are holding all sorts of rifles. And there has been a marked improvement from the kind of weapons that we were using before to what we are using today. But it is not close to the kinds of things we need to establish military supremacy over La République du Cameroon. That is why next week we'll be out again to ensure that our people can continuously on a monthly basis make the kind of investment that can take us from defensive to offensive action, and to be able to strategic, because La République has got maybe 12,000 men. 12,000 men around. Those men cannot hold territory. So what they do is they spread them from one place to the other. And what we need to do is to have enough men and enough firepower in strategic areas to lay siege on them, make it impossible for their men to be redistributed, undermine their mobility within our territory, and totally cripple them. And we can do that this year if we have the kind of investment that is required.
Great. So I see that those are people on the ground. Some of them, their T-shirt shows ADF. So why do some people say that they don't have ADF does not have any action on the ground when I can see these people wearing those shirts? Is it in a different country? Or is it not in Cameroon? Why do they
No,
say that you don't do anything on the ground and that you are more of La Republique or whatever, those type of things? Where is that coming from?
well, is out of desperation. Out of desperation. First, you have to look at the trend. The trend has been very simple. First, they said Ayaba did not exist. It's a fake. And very soon, Ayaba existed, but he's not doing anything. And later on, Ayaba exists, but he's killing our forces. So these are acts of desperation and a manifestation of some level of justification for their ineptitude in the way they have conducted themselves in this struggle. You know, ADF is the force unrivaled. This is the mother force. It's like we are talking SCNC. It is the most powerful force. It is the most organized force. But also, power comes with responsibility. We don't fight. We have 73 to 75 brigades. 73 to 75 brigades. We don't run around. We control territory. When you looked at October 1, people marching, I mean, what did I tell you? You found students marching in Bui. What did I tell you? What you should know, success invites hatred. That is the reality of a people who have never known success. Everything is like magic. Amazonians have not known success through hard work. So anytime you find something that is out of the normal, they don't believe it. They say, this is incredible. It cannot be. There are people who have asked if this force is actually in ground zero. So Seseko, I have told the ADF leadership that they must remain humble. They must try as much as possible to work together with other forces, big or small. They try as much as possible to share intelligence, logistics. If they kill, when they kill Ayeke, that block becomes defenseless. When Spirito was taken out, that block became defenseless. And so there is the relevance and for the interests of the ADF, for other commanders that show positive attitude towards them, to be respected, supported. But the ADF is the force of the people, is the pride of Amazonia. The name ADF is the pride, is the name that epitomizes the Amazonian resistance against Cameroon. And those who hate it, those who like it, project it. And it has become notorious today not only because of those who love it. It has become notorious today thanks to those who have hated it.
So, Dr. Ayaba, do you have an income that you live on outside of the revolution? Because most people say that you depend on your livelihood from what comes into the revolution. Like many others that we know today who would not probably be able to pay their rents without or mortgage without the revolution. Are you also one of the leaders who depend solely your livelihood on the revolution?
I have never depended on the revolution, not a single day, because the AGOVC doesn't have enough funds to support its leader. It doesn't have it. And I think every leader must, at this stage, have a source of income. Every leader must, at this stage, be able to take care of their families. Because We have on the ground soldiers, commanders that have been in the bushes for long, and nobody is paid. It is absurd to understand that, people make a living out of a bankrupt liberation struggle. People, I'm not saying you are sitting in the bush, you are sitting out in the West, and your livelihood depends on contributions that are made by our people. The charter of the AGovC is absolutely clear. The leader, the president of the organization, receives no compensation, and the AGovC never does provide any compensation to my leadership. I can also say with utmost sincerity that my life, my entire living has been based on transparency and accountability, personally and as a leader. Accountable to the Ambazonian Governing Council, transparent to the utmost with its money that the president has no access to. So you can trust me when I say I live on my work, I live on the earnings of my family, and that will be the case for the next 3 years and a half when I will remain the president of the AGovC. But I would also campaign. Leadership is daunting. Leadership is daunting. It's costly to be a leader of a liberation movement. But this liberation struggle is broke. But it is also important, and not only for the AGovC, for other movements. If they have a scheme to support their leaders, it should not be an entirely bad idea, because there are costs associated with leadership that must not and should not be borne by those leaders themselves. But that leaders are paid in the service of the liberation is unacceptable. But that movements develop compensation scheme to take care of little things is humane. That will also ensure that you have transparent and accountable leaders who in periods of hardship do not swindle money. That is why in the corporate world, people are paid well so that you don't engage in corruption. But for the AGovC, and until I leave office, that scheme will not exist. I would, as I have done in the past 30 years, let, fought, sacrifice without anything as reward in terms of monetary compensation or otherwise.
So is the practice of accountability and transparency an internal AGovC, ADF culture, or is one that that you have a donor population out there that you can show them that you practice such a culture, and to attract more donors who would use your way of doing things to build trust?
There is in a liberation struggle, the mistake you should not make is to try to satisfy public perception, and by so doing undermine your ability to remain unpredictable. The structures you build within an organization is a reflection of whether you become transparent or accountable. And those who invest, they trust you as an institution. They trust you, the leader, in terms of your character, in terms of the way you conduct yourself. They believe in you. Let's forget about money. Why should AGovCs forget about the general Ambazonian public? I see a lot. Before I came in here, I've received the video of the captured warders. I've received the video of the La Republique soldiers taken out. I forwarded it to the War Council chairman and to the communicators. I see the things. So I believe because I see. I'm empowered because I see the progress. Before you ever see our weapons, I have seen them. Yet, 90% of AGovCs do not have access to the kind of classified information that I have. But the reason they continue to make an investment is that I keep to my words. If I tell them, please, we need $50,000 to be able to raise a stabilization force. My transparency is not, the micro details on how I use the money. My transparency is being able to come back to them and show them that I ask you for $50,000 to buy weapons to erect a stabilization force. This is the force. That's how I become accountable even to the general public. When we went to the public and asked for money to erect the stabilization force, before you ever saw the force, I had gone to all the 17 AGovC missions and showed them the video first. I went to the groups that came together and mobilized money, families. I gave them a briefing. I showed them the force, that this is the product of your investment. Thank you. This is what we'll be doing again in the next few months. And please trust in us to make the investment so we can continue replicating what we have done in another state. So we have public responsibility for accountability and transparency. We have internal responsibility for accountability and transparency. And we fulfill all those things through methods that satisfy both our general population and our internal donors. Ambazonians trust my leadership in terms of my character and that I keep to my words. And if I make a mistake, I'm able to tell them I'm sorry. If they need explanation and clarification, I'm able to come to them and I do it. There is virtually no mismanagement of resources or funds in the Ambazonian Governing Council. If you do that, you will go under the hammer of the organization. They are as strict as you can get. And an Ambazonian should take pride in the structure and the discipline that has been instituted within the body politics of the AGovC, because it will mutate into the general population of Ambazonia.
So why do people say you're an arrogant man?
One of my advisors, who is my communication strategic advisor, told me, hey, gentleman, when you go out there, try to laugh and try to smile. I understand why they think I'm arrogant. The reason is because for so long, Ambazonians have been used to party politics, where you kiss women, you hug babies, and then you give bags of rice and stuff. And they found a different platform where I was so damn focused on Yaoundé. There was virtually no time, to be very much interactive with the Amazonian people, for them to know who I am. So my demeanor, my public demeanor, especially when I speak through this channel, is poised, is no blinking, no bowing kind of demeanor, and that can translate into arrogance. But for you who know me, I'm the last child in a family. For those who know me personally, pardon?
I say you're the Benjamin of the family.
Yes, for those who know me, I'm a very humble person. I am not sophisticated. It is, my life is as basic as you get. But also, I'm a disciplined person, and I have two of the characteristics that is needed for liberation struggles. Ambazonians I won't be smiling here all the time, because this is serious stuff, and I'm dealing with a regime whose own leader doesn't blink, doesn't bow. So Amazonians should forgive me if my posture, my demeanor come across as being arrogant. They should get to know me more. Those who interact with me on a personal basis know that the public posture or the public description of Ayaba is totally different from the Ayaba that they know personally. And you can testify to that, that as a junior to you, I show utmost respect, I listen, I take advice, and that's what you really require in leadership at the time of liberation.
And you're not that of a very big man anyway. I mean, by size.
No, I am very big. I am very big. I don't know what you mean by being big, but I
No,
am
I
one
mean
point.
a little by
No,
structure.
no. You know, I try to make myself look small. I try to make myself look small,
How do you do
but
that? How do you?
no. See, I don't want to
Don't
come
eat a
across
lot
with this. I'm a very big man. Yes, in terms of size, when people meet me, they cannot match the me they know with the size. I'm a lean figure. I'm a lean figure, but don't underestimate the size. Trust me.
You mean you have power? You can hit somebody?
One of the things I know about myself is that I'm scared of myself.
Oh, good. So this is really some good talk here. So what do you normally eat? You have favorite food?
All right, this is good. I like this. I like this one. My favorite food has always been what they call aqua.
Uh-huh.
Do you know what is aqua? I grew up to be
No.
a very complex. All right, I'm a very complex person with food. I eat very little. I eat very
Okay.
little, very selective. Yes, I grew up not eating a lot of stuff. You know, that's me. And even up at this moment in my home, I spend an entire day forgetting to eat. But I there are a few types of food that I've really loved. I love aqua, which is something that my mom will make for me a lot. And even though I'm from
Is that a
Mancon, actually,
cornmeal?
no, actually, aqua is pounded cassava.
Okay, okay, okay.
Aqua is yeah, is the unfermented version of what you call water fufu.
Okay.
Yes, so yes, I really like it, even though I don't find it here. I don't find it here often. I don't eat a lot. I eat very little. So food is
The
not
day
really.
will be the day
What do
will
you
meet.
like?
I promise to cook you fried noodles. The day we meet, I promise to cook you fried noodles. And I am the best at scrambled eggs. You
Listen to
see,
you. You are a lost. You are a
when
lost
I was
man.
in grad, when I was in graduate school, most of my classmates were from China and Singapore, all of those places. So they taught me how to cook Chinese food. So I can cook scrambled eggs. I mean, scrambled eggs and fried noodles. You love it the day I cook it for you.
What is in your will? Would you want, if you die, where do you want to be buried?
Normally, as a Siseko, I should be buried in my compound, in my
No.
village.
Where do you want to be buried?
In my village.
All right, fine. The reason why I'm asking
You
you
are going
this
to
is
guarantee me that. You want to guarantee me that?
yes, of course. For example, I say if I'm gonna die here, of course you cannot carry my body into the territory, but they should cremate the body and carry my dust and make sure that I find my last place down there. The reason why I
I
ask it is you were talking about scrambled eggs and a typical manuman should be talking you should be talking
don't,
watafufu and
don't,
kati kati.
don't let that mislead you, man. We just man, you people are very diverse in the way they look at things. I am a Siseko, I eat the fufu and everything, Oh, not to talk about, I like sesep plantain with a goosey and kanda cow, nothing
Oh,
else. I love those. And then, not to talk, my sister, after when I got my vaccine, I love when my wife cooks everything. But my sisters, I always like to order them to cook something for me. When they cook
I
eggplant,
love,
I love that.
oh yes, oh yes, oh yes.
Now, let me ask you,
Uh,
Mr. President, now that we have spoken so much, do I leave here with an apology from your folks, your team, for what they did, all the noise they made about RK?
I don't think so, and I'll explain. I'll explain why. Um, I asked a series of questions. I, I don't think so in terms of the substance. In terms
Okay,
of the substance of the things that were discussed, but in terms of the procedure, yes, I should apologize in the way that it was managed. I think
okay.
it was disrespectful, and they should have reached out to the RK team and make
Mm-hmm.
inquiries and deal with it in the background. But in terms of the substance, I have not had clarity on on the entirety. So it is still something that once I get clarity and full briefing on the substance, and if it doesn't hold, if it is not truthful, I think I will be able to send an apology to the British Southern Cameroon Restoration Forces and to ARCO in particular.
Thank you very much for that. This is the thing. You talked about the will. Normally, as a Siseko, I should be buried. I know the spot where I should be buried in my village. But I don't think La Republique would give us passage at this time for us to be buried. So you want the ashes. I want that when they get independence, if I die and I'm buried here, they dig my bones and take it and bury it in my compound. That's going to happen for many of us. And so you
My
didn't ask me
promise,
any question. This was a
my
chat
promise,
for two people. One asking
yes,
all the questions.
I have two questions for you, but my promise to you and my promise to you for your long service to our country and to all men of your age is that we will do everything possible to make sure that we secure our homeland so that you can come and bless the next generation of governors. You can come and give them your wisdom, your experiences, our trials and tribulations to inform the way that they conduct themselves in times of governance. That is my greatest wish. It will be a tragedy, a huge tragedy for Ambazonia if after independence, men like you, Professor Carson Anyangwe, and others are not around to bless the new nation. It will be the generation of governors may be lost. So we will do everything, and I pray to God that you people act like statesmen. Avoid being used for partisan politics. Refuse being used for partisan politics. Be a statesman, support ideas, provide your advice to all leaders, use your position to mobilize for causes that are close to your heart as you have been doing. And I think if all of you conduct yourself or have conducted yourself this way, you know, those who have emerged would have gotten some lessons. But now let me ask my own question.
Okay.
I have now this is important. You have been long in this struggle, very long. Do you believe that Ambazonia will be free? Do you believe? And if you believe, how do you think we should conduct ourselves to make that happen.
Should I answer?
Yes.
Okay, I thought it was. When I answer, then you can go to question number 2. You yourself, you have limited yourself to 2 questions, so don't add number 3rd.
No,
Because
no, I
we are
will not.
almost getting. Okay, listen. This is what I believe. I believe that from the very first time, the very first day that we had Ambazonian children who rose and resisted and fought back when they were being attacked, we were already free. The danger we face right now is to group ourselves very much to maintain this resistance and to put ourselves together so that what is happening to us now is that we lack impulse control. We are becoming very impulsive to a point where it's dangerous even. There is no force in the world, I believe very sincerely, that can stop Ambazonian independence. Our own attitudes, our own behavior, and the way we go about things is going to delay that Ambazonia is going to have its independence. Because I believe that the actions of Ambazonia, from the foundation we laid, because if we were, that's why I call some of us, and when I talk to my friend Carson, that there are people who are white collar activists. It's not the same like being overall, because if it was white collar activism, we would stay on this big book writing and all the like for centuries and nothing would happen on the ground. So for our people to rise up and say enough is enough and they're fighting back with nothing, that should tell all of us something. So it's just the management of it and you people at the forefront in leadership. It's very important. And that's why no matter what is hitting us, we should never fail to see the strength or how powerful a weapon unity is, or at least we can never get 100% unity because we still have the federalists amongst us. But at how good it is for us who are fighting, who have accepted to resist, to use our right to self-defense, to resist, to make sure that we group ourselves together in a way that the fighting force is stronger and can continue for a very long time.
Thanks a lot, Sefeko. My last question is this. My last question is this. In the from January 1 up till now, we have strengthened our fighting ability on the ground by establishing the stabilization force, and we have also been able to find a killer for La Republique's armor car. That cuts across the different defense forces. We are facing a threat on the ground, especially from the Bafut axis, extortionists harassing our population. And that also calls for the necessity of expanding the stabilization force. You have been a very good ambassador for different causes. Very good ambassador for different causes. We are looking at mobilizing resources for about 4 different machine guns. One is about $9,500. Would you really help the ADF, despite some of your misapprehensions, to strengthen its ability by using your good offices and position and your within our community to mobilize resources to help us expand and strengthen the stabilization force across different states?
I don't see why not. As we sit down here, because of the confusion we've had, the minimum that I had committed myself for this revolution, minimum, that's nothing else. I'm not talking about philanthropic assistance and all that. Just like a tax that I pay every month has been $100. I stopped doing that when I did not find any group that was well structured. After I stopped paying, up to today, the SACO group, I stopped paying in 2000 and what, 20 or 19. So I don't see anything. You have a thing that is going on and you want my support. As I'm sitting here living now, I would say that from, we are now today, what, April? Huh?
April 18.
April
Okay,
18.
I would say that my citizens levy that I was supposed to be paying for this year that I've not paid anything, right? I have donated to the stabilization fund. Not that I'm paying it all, which means that I am going to be able to donate to the fund between now and December $1,200 between now and December. And I hope doing it on air, that's marketing enough for other people who follow me. I have a lot of friends who contribute anonymously, and I'm sure that when they see this, they would also commit. But I would commit, like as we sit down, living here by tomorrow, I can pay even half of the commitment that I've committed till December. But I will pay my whatever I could have paid a year just to one group for taxes. I'll pay $1,200 to the ADF for the stabilization fund, which immediately I will be able to pay half of that amount, and then the rest would be a debt till the end of December.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Seseko. All right. I think
And
we should have.
that's just by way of taxes, by way of taxes. So by way of citizens' taxes, and it has nothing. I might get up one day and everybody, my friend here from Dallas is nice to me, and Brisney does not give me any trouble. And I say, let me throw another 200 there or 500 there. It depends on how people treat me sometimes too.
All right. I would let you have the last word. So I will make my closing remarks now, and then you would have the last word to close this discussion. First,
Thank you.
let me thank our technical crew and our comrade from Dallas. We hope we are going to have a fine conversation in the background. And Seseko, I really want to thank you for this initiative. It is thanks to you that we've had this frank conversation, and I hope that it has clarified a couple of issues and been able to expose others and strengthen the bond that we've had before. And I look forward to having others with the same mindset for us to have this kind of interactive, frank conversation that touches on different areas of our struggle. Our population must realize that we cannot be permanent enemies in this struggle for our freedom. We are here because the enemy also has worked extremely very hard to induce, a sense of anger, frustration that has translated into enmity amongst comrades fighting the same enemy. Our cause is on good form. Our people should sacrifice more. At this particular stage of our liberation struggle, where there is more focus, there is narrowing in the field in terms of effective strategy, I appeal to our population to invest more so that we can expand the stabilization force, take over ungovernable spaces created by the demise of Cameroon, make sure that we can bring justice, at least in armor cars and on checkpoints on the La Republique forces that have been committing crimes in our country. You would realize that since the erection of the stabilization force, there has been a slowdown in the amount of massacres because our forces are patrolling long distances They are assuring our population they are being able to fight more. And I think our population is enthusiastic with the developments that they are seeing. Once more, thanks, Sisiko. I wish you good health. And as I promise that, I hope to God Almighty that we speed up this thing as quickly as possible so that your invaluable experience and the knowledge that you've garnered for more than 30 years will bear on the generation of governors that will take our country to the next stage.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, Dr. Chuayaba. I would put you, I don't want to go in between, I'll put you in direct contact with my friend Priestley because he's always shown the respect to be here. He can be very strategic too. So whatever communication you guys can have directly with him, he's a guy who is here on retirement. He's done a lot of work in Cameroon, and we are fine. I see you as a junior brother. Your elder brother Martin was my friend in Douala. He worked with the Cameroon Post during when we were. I had come from United States when I came from Cameroon to the United States with Abel Mukong to lobby the United Nations, and immediately I returned. We were planning the AAC, and Martin gave me an interview with the Post, and the central spread that was published on the day when we were sitting in the day after the second day of the conference was that interview, the central spread. So I always, when I met him here and then I saw that, he told me that you were the junior brother, I was very happy to see that he had a junior brother of your quality. No matter what disagreement, I am a big fan of young people who don't waste. And when I talk waste, it's not driving big cars or living in big homes or having degrees, but how you step up and make sacrifices to improve the well-being and the lot of humanity. And that's what you're doing here. That's what you put your life into. I'm very privileged and very happy that each time I have sought your attention, you've given it to me, even when we disagree on the issues. I think you're doing a fine job, and there are many challenges with leadership at this time. Even me, though I'm committed and all the like, but I'm still navigating from a place of comfort because I don't have any kind of administrative responsibility that I have to carry out on a day-to-day basis. Sometimes, too, it can become somehow insensitive with my level of frustration when things are not done the way I thought they should be done, with my level of maybe criticism or maybe shouting. Those are just sometimes human, but not know one thing in you, and you should always know as our leaders in the revolution, that is me. I am very blessed and privileged that God blessed me with the quality of deeper reflections on my actions. There are times that I have to withdraw and look at how things are going, which is part of the reason why we are having this talk today in the interest of our people and the revolution. So you would always have me. I've seen, in spite of whatever concerns I may have about your setup and all the thing, I've seen something of value in it. That's why I have no problem whatsoever whenever I'm approached to make a little bit of a sacrifice. There's some value in it, and hopefully that you see yourself as a vehicle to build this structure, and we move on from there. I wish you to good health. I wish you that you can also fight and live as long as I've lived. People say life is short, but I think I've lived almost forever. In my 60s, I feel like I've lived forever, and I am not one who is ungrateful to see the many blessings, not only the blessings of my own personal comfort, but also for the fact that I still have very young friends who hang around me, and whenever I call them, they want to do things and they want to listen, and that's a blessing. So thank you very much, and take my love and wishes to your entire family, your wife and children.
Thanks a lot, Siseko. Good night, Amazonians.
Good night.
to find agents of the colonial state walk our streets, aided by enablers, to cajole the people they have murdered, to cajole the women whose sons and daughters have been raped and humiliated, to sit on the same table in the same room with their tormentors and murderers. It will not happen. Under our watch, it will not happen. Cameroon must withdraw from our territory urgently and let our captives free. Cameroon must withdraw its troops from the territory of Ambazonia. Only then shall we constitute a nation that Cameroon is going to pay for 57 years of slavery, for 57 years of thuggery, for 57 years of humiliation. This generation will fight our valiant soldiers of the revolution in the diaspora who have been able to inform the world about the plight of our people, make the US Senate, Parliament, British House of Commons and House of Lords will continue to bring pressure to bear on the international system that betrayed us in the first place. Our valiant soldiers on the ground will continue to put their bodies in the line of fire to defend the territorial integrity of our homeland, to ensure that true independence is restored in the land of our birth, to give our people a shot in the 21st century to live their dreams. We should be brave. We have not come this far to buckle in the face of deception and manipulation aided by enablers. Henceforth, in the fight for our existence, survival, there is one option. There is only one school of thought. That is full independence. Anyone within our territory who enables Cameroon to ensure the colonialism of Ambazonia will be treated as an enemy. Henceforth, all enablers that are facilitating the murder of our people will be treated as accessories to the crime of genocide. And we would treat them accordingly under international law. We are fighting for our survival. This is not a political campaign. It is about the survival of the people of Ambazonia. It is about our existence. It's not about glory. It's not about opinion. The only opinion in the territory of Ambazonia is its freedom. Every citizen of our homeland must toe the line, become a patriot volunteer in the defense of the right of our people, expressed on the 22nd of September 2017 and on the 1st of October 2017, and expressed in a signature referendum in 1995 for their right to exist in the land of their birth as a free people. That is the only opinion in Ambazonia. Any extra opinion in our territory that facilitates the annihilation of our people, the continuous detention of our people in the dungeons of Cameroon, will be treated with contempt and disdain. This is the time for the last fight to defend our people.
Gentlemen, we'll be talking to you here with Mr. Ebini Atem Christmas. And to those of you who've never known anything about the Anglophone struggle in Cameroon, or the struggle for freedom, democracy, or a change, ladies and gentlemen, you are welcome. Mr. Ebini Atem Christmas. Mr. Ebini Atem Christmas was delivered in Cambe in the Northwest Province. His father comes from Manyu in the Southwest Province, and his mother from Douala in the Littoral Province. Mr. Ebini Atem Christmas started his studies here in Cameroon. He went to CPC, Bali, in the Northwest Province, and then proceeded to the United States, and then back to Cameroon. He's a teacher of economics. In fact, he's an all-round gentleman, and very involved in other activities, sports, in social activities too. He's dynamic, he's patriotic, and ladies and gentlemen, we hope that with this interview, you are going to feel all right talking or listening to Mr. Ebini Atem Christmas. And we want to tell you that there may be some other activities which we are going to screen, showing his total involvement in the Anglophone struggle for self-determination. Ladies and gentlemen, once more, you are welcome. A freedom fighter, a teacher, a sportsman, he is everything. And we are very happy to have met with him today, and we're going to ask him a few questions which many viewers would have wanted to know. You see, Mr. Christmas, you happen to be a real figure in society now, and many people, youths, adults inclusive, would want to know your impressions about the future of this nation, Cameroon, or Southern Cameroonians in particular.
Yes, Mr. Batango, first of all, I want to thank you for coming to conduct this interview with me. I don't know whether I should take into the affirmative that I'm a real figure in society, but at least I know I had an education, and I'm not only defending that education. The things I do are not very special things. They are things that every right-thinking citizen or individual should do. Every right-educated man must think about the well-being and the future of his society. What I think about Cameroon, it's no hidden secret for you to know that the country is completely in a confused state. And all I wish for my country is some sort of dedication of its citizens to see that our country can be like any other country where people can move freely, live happily, and love each other. And those are just the things that I'm doing with my friends. I'm joining the people who are fighting for a better Cameroon to fight for that better Cameroon. And as of now, I know that the main problem we have is a problem of structure, and that is why I am so much involved in the struggle to change the existing structure to what can be very feasible for us now and posterity, and that is the federation struggle.
Yeah, what advice do you have for those who are shying away from this struggle?
Well, you see, in every struggle, there are always some people who probably by some call are destined to be at the head of that struggle. Sometimes people don't shy away from the struggle because they deliberately want to shy away from the struggle. It's sometimes due to ignorance. And so those of us who probably see a little clearer now must be able to command a lot of trust on us to be able to get the gospel and the message across to those who are shying, who are seemingly shying away now, to see that we are on the right direction. And I think all we have to do is educate and be patient with the people. You can see that when we started, like in the Cameroon Anglophone movement, there was a complete kind of resistance from a majority of the Anglophones and even some of the Francophones. But today you see things are changing, and we have many people joining our camp. There are many people who are seeing really the light because of recent happenings in the country, and they see that we are carrying on a selfless fight for the good of everybody. So I think people should really just open up their hearts and their eyes and see the realities of what is happening to their own lives, and try to have love for their own children that they have brought forward. If you love your children, you think of their future. And so while we might say that we have spent our own lives the way we have spent them, it is on us, incumbent on us, to do something to make sure that the children we bring forth to this world do not go through the same hurdles that we are going through or that we have gone through. So I'm advising them to join that the fight we are fighting. Cameroon Anglophone movement will never make me a minister. Cameroon Anglophone movement will never make me a rich man. But we hope that by all of us fighting for a just thing, the atmosphere can be conducive enough for anybody who has some potentials to shine.
Okay, yes, Mr. Bini, you just missed that narrowly on the 20th, and it is also known that you are the camp president for the littoral, and the activities of camp in the littoral, as it is alleged, are at a very low ebb. As the camp president for littoral, how can you defend this allegation?
It is true, like you rightly said, missed death, because normally you know what happens with accidents along our roads, especially the Tiko-Douala Road and the Yaoundé Douala Road. I got involved in an accident when I was coming back from Boya, where I'd been for over a week arranging the CAM extraordinary conference that was supposed to take place there, and you know all the stories. You know the stories about the conference. You know the story about the conference. So I was returning from Boya after the conference late on Saturday the 21st, and we got into this accident, which I should attribute to some kind of carelessness of the driver, over speeding, and then not taking into consideration that he didn't have very good tires. Fortunately, so the back tire, when he was on 120, I had my seatbelt on. So what had to happen happened. The vehicle somersaulted 3 times, and fortunately all of us came out of it safe. I took that instant because I saw death coming, and I know just at the flip of the finger you could just not exist anymore. And since I came out of it, I knew God did not want me to call me home yet, and wanted me to continue with the mission. I took it as a sort of appreciation from the part of God on what we are doing. Because if I had died in that accident, and you know all the talks of the Southwest chiefs and elites of using all the means and the traditional means in dealing with those of us fighting for our 2-state federation, my death would have scared a lot of youths away from joining the struggle, because they would have feared the magical powers of the chiefs. But I thank God very much. I think God wants me to do what I can do with the extended period that He has given me. So I'm going to really dedicate all my efforts and all my time to this struggle. On the other side of the story, I mean, before even I go to that, I wish to thank most of my friends who have been very supportive after my accident, especially my 2 doctors, Dr. Yombang and Dr. Mungo, who even come right to the house here to give me treatment and all that stuff. So the time of this interview, I'm feeling much better. Some of my colleagues have always been spending every minute with me here to try to raise up my spirit, and I'm very, very thankful and grateful to them. On the other part of your story, a question, beg your pardon. You talk about CAM activities in the littoral. Like you rightly said, I'm the chairman of the Cameroon Anglophone Movement Littoral Branch. But I really doubt where you get the source of your information on saying that the activities of CAM Littoral is at a low ebb. I would differ very much with you on this, and I really beg to differ because I should be the right source to tell you the truth about CAM's activities in this province. We have been doing a tremendous work, not necessarily under my leadership. I won't take the credit for it much, but because we happen to be very fortunate in this province to have unburning dedicated Southern Cameroonians or Anglophones who are in CAM, even if we be few, but we have been doing a lot of work that we think is highly appreciated at the national level. We have here strong people like Peko, Yongbang, and many others. I have young men got into the provincial executive, young dynamic men like Cyprian Agor, Batangor, Array, and others. So we are coming strong, and I see the way people are receiving us and even inviting us in different traditional meetings and Jangi houses to come and tell them, educate them about camp. I think we are heading for the kill. So I would like to correct your information, which I think is a sort of distorted information that camp's activity at Littoral, it's not really being heard of. We do a lot of work here, and we will still continue to do much for camp.
Okay. What other groupings are fighting against this marginalization of the Anglophones, apart from the Cameroon Anglophone movement?
Clarify a little thing that people have been misunderstanding so far. You know, it was last April we had the second and third, we had the All Anglophone conference in Boya. But you see, before that All Anglophone conference, there had been a sort of a seemingly existing All Anglophone conference in camp. Because when we met last July 4th in Boya for our first camp congress, almost all of the struggling Anglophone associations kind of affiliated their membership with camp, even though they still maintain their structure. I will talk of the Free Southern Cameroon movement, which we have a little bit of a question mark on its activities of late, but those are still on some allegations which we still need to prove. I'll talk of some of the Ambazonian people whom unfortunately we don't have much contact with them. I'll talk of the Teachers Association of Cameroon. I'll talk of the Bambeli Free Thinkers. I'll talk of the concerned Southern Cameroonians, or the concerned Anglophones, which is led by Mukong Song in Bamenda. I'll talk of Campeko. I'll talk of the CAMSA, the Students Association. All of this body, etc., sort of affiliated themselves under the umbrella of CAMP. The only problem we suffered on having the complete and entire grouping of the Anglophone struggling groups was that at the time the Southwest was seemingly too allergic to CAMP or to the two-state federation, and this was due to the ignorance at the time. But you can see now the rising spirit of the Southwesterners.
Many people have been sensitized.
Yes, many people have been sensitized. So we only had a problem with Swela. But as far as that is concerned, what the AAC has done is that the AAC has successfully broken through the yoke of Swela and brought in Swela into what I could call the new camp, which is the AAC to me.
Okay.
So that umbrella existed, and we have never had any conflict with most of the other associations, struggling groups, Anglophone struggling groups that are really struggling to liberate Southern Cameroon.
Okay, Mr. Ebini, you are not a constitutional expert, neither are you a lawyer. But a few months back, people like Owona came out with the draft constitution. Monzu also came out with his. And other people. Do you have any word on this?
Yes, I do. I think if I don't, then I really don't know what I am standing for. I might not be a constitutional expert. You don't need to be a constitutional expert to know things about the Constitution. What is being a constitutional expert? The constitutional expert's activity is at the drafting level. The Constitution itself is the wish of the people. And this wish is expressed on what you want, this type of structure. It is us who tell the experts, this is how I want it to be, and then you go and design it. It's like you want to build a house. You tell the architect how you want the house to be, and it makes the plan for the house.
Okay.
So you don't need to be a constitutional expert to understand things about the Constitution. I fully well understand that the present constitution, if at all there is any in this country, does not provide occasions and opportunities for development and for sort of democratic process.
Yeah, because people in many spheres of life were not represented.
People are not represented. So we, the people of Cameroon or of Southern Cameroon or whatever you want, have expressed our wishes. And all of those different constitutions that you have expressed, the people are coming from their own narrow camp of the wishes of their people, and on those basis they have designed their constitution. Owona has designed his constitution according to the wishes of the unitaries and the CPDM and the government in place. Munzo, Anyangwe and Elat have come up with a constitution they are defending on the wishes of the All Anglophone Conference, which they are representing in the standing committee, and that is the Anglophone community, what they want to see. We are just reading another one of the 10-state federal constitutional proposal by Dr. Agbobisom of the CRP, and that one too, in his own narrow confines, he is bringing in the wishes of his people. He might not be a technical expert because he's presenting this thing, but from the wishes of what the people want, they might have had some kind of references from experts, the work experts have done on constitutions, and come up with their own proposal. So I stand very firmly behind the Munzo Elat Anyangwe constitution, because that is what we have adopted in camp, and that is what we have adopted, we have presented from the AAC Standing Committee on behalf of the entire citizens of the Southern Cameroons. I believe very firmly that the two-state federation is the basis, must be the basis of our existence as a united Cameroon. Without that, then there must be a problem, and we are already feeling the effects of those problems, the marginalization cry of the Southern Cameroonians, the GC crisis, you know about it, and many other things, and then the kind of empty positions that are given to Anglophones, and complete a kind of annexation and assimilation of the Anglo-Saxon culture which we inherited from our colonial masters. So we must be able to provide a constitution that will take care of all of these problems if at all we want to maintain the union. And from those wishes, from those our wishes, what we want, the experts can do their work in the drafting of the constitution.
Yeah, it is also known that in your struggle you are having a lot of people who are a stumbling block or a disturbance to your achieving your objectives. You see, but to let them feel that we are all Cameroonians and that what you are doing is for our common good. What steps or measures have you taken, you see, to explain to these people so that they can understand, and so that we be together?
That is exact. We have a few in-house problems. There are problems that are emanating from misunderstandings and dishonesty. The politic of the day has been one of bribery, where the Francophone administration always had a few hungry Anglophones to kind of go in as trading masters to sell the Anglophones for their own stomachs or for their own personal benefits. Right now, we have a few members of our community who, unfortunately for us, pass to be chiefs and elites, who are benefiting very much from the CPDM administration, who say no, who try to distort our struggle from what we really want. But you see, we must have expected such things to happen. We are not saying that we are going to have a struggle, or the success of our struggle must be bent on us having 100% agreement amongst ourselves. If the few minority who are really kind of stubborn to our call for our liberation think they can really still stay and cause any damage, if we find them causing any damage on us, what would happen is that eventually we would have to fight a war inside a war. That's to say, we must fight to liberate, to stop them from selling us into slavery, and then we'll fight to liberate ourselves. So eventually, the enemy might not necessarily be the Francophone, but it will also be the enemy who is inside the house, and we'll have to do some house cleaning in order to get on with the fight. You see, Eritrea went on elections, referendum for their independence. They are independent today. They have been struggling for 30 years violently. They did not get 100% at that referendum, but they have their independence today. If you take the case of South Africa, what is bringing South Africa out now is the violence of black against black. And why are the blacks fighting against the blacks? Because there are few black people who don't see what the other black people are fighting for, their freedom. And so they try to keep them steadfastly into slavery. So they kill themselves in order to go and fight the common enemy. Eventually we would have to do that. We would have to take care of those.
Mr. Ebini, you are aware, obviously, that the Union for Change called for a strike action for 2 days, that is the 30th and the 31st of August 1993. And some people are of the opinion that the Union for Change is not the only union that is ruling this country, and so they didn't obey. Others did obey. What is your view to this issue?
Personally, I was going to write off the Union for Change if that strike or that plan of action that was called for on the 30th and 31st was not respected or was not as successful as it was. But the success of it all, despite all the noise that was made on TV by the CPDM and their mobilizations and all that kind of stuff, it's an indication to the members of the Union for Change that they have to come up strong and more radical. As for any other union, today we are in a country where people say they are in unions. I only see, as far as political parties are concerned in this country, besides the Anglophone on national level, besides the Anglophone struggle, which is different from the national struggle, I only see two unions. There is the Union for Change, which is genuine and existing opposition of the country now, whether they be in parliament or not. And there is what the so-called presidential majority. There is no in-between on those two camps. So it's either you are sympathizing and working with the presidential majority, or you are working for genuine change inside the Union for Change. So where I know the other unions you might be calling, you might want to refer to people like Bello Buba, who are still playing whatever they think they are playing. You want to talk about Damun Damjoya, who probably it's not what I thought he should have been. And maybe Jean-Jacques Kindi, who can talk of federalism when he meets Anglophones, but when he meets Francophones, he cannot talk anything about federalism. My recognition of opposition in this country is the Union for Change. And the majority party in the opposition is the SDF. All the other ones who want to see themselves like in-betweens are not genuine. And as a matter of force, they don't exist. The thing we should register right now is that the call for that strike was respected. It was not necessarily 100%, but the fact that the people respected it was great. If the Union for Change tested its ground, its strong or its strength on the Cameroonian people and it failed on that their call, it would have been very dangerous for the struggle on the national level. But now that the people have shown to them that they have not fallen away from the decision, the choice they made during the 1992 October presidential election, it is now up to them to follow up to the finish what they have started. And to this, my position is that for the Union for Change to be watching what is going on after only close to 1 year after the so-called stolen victory, and just be making noise and calling strikes that does not really hurt anybody as far as the real person is concerned, Biya. They are in effect accompanying Biya through his stolen term of office.
To complete it?
They have accompanied him already 1 year. So my suggestion to me, and this is a very pertinent issue because the Anglophones find themselves in a fix. We have a son of Anglophone who has been cheated in an election, which is an indication to us and the world of what the Francophones and the French are able to do against the Anglophones. John Frundi, we gave him our full support, not only as one of our own sons, but as one who has impressed upon us that because we have the vision, we should try to help our half-brothers, the Francophones, who are suffering under tortures of Biya's dictatorship and French imperialist exploitations. We followed Frundi. So it is up now to Frundi because Frundi is using our resources and our people to fight this nationalist battle. And if he cannot get any success from it, it is up to him to either do the right things and get this thing over with, or he should step aside and let's not be wasting our resources and our people in the wrong battlefield. I believe that Frundi, right now, what he should do is he should declare with his Union for Change, he should declare a government, and we are prepared to support that government. If they don't declare the government and they keep still singing stolen victories, then I would narrow them down to election men and let them go and sit quiet and wait to ask for our votes at the next presidential election and stop worrying us about stolen victories. So as I'm calling on Frundi to declare his government, Biya is a finished man and we are being accomplice in keeping Biya there. Frundi should declare his government with the Union for Change and will support it. If the Francophones shy away from that, then Frundi should stop using our Anglophones in fighting the liberation of the Francophones from the French and let us fight our own liberation of the southern Cameroons. We need the fighting spirits of our Bamenda people of the Northwest, which we would not want to see them get tired fighting a wrong fight. So I am really behind Frundi 100%. But if Frundi should not really take more radical measures towards getting rid of Biya, then he should just wait for elections. And I can assure you that if he doesn't do it, next elections he should not count on my votes, and I will be able to convince many of my friends too that they shouldn't give him the votes.
Okay. One more question. You are an economics teacher, a sportsman, a camp chairman for the littoral, in short, a martyr for freedom. How do you combine all these activities?
It's not really very difficult for me because all of those things you have mentioned. You mentioned martyr. I don't think I'm dead yet. Anyway, I think they are living martyrs, if that's what you mean to say.
Of course.
It's not difficult, you see. It's just the way you arrange your priorities. To me, I am an economics teacher. I work with the government. That does not know the risk I take belonging to come and doing all what I'm doing, being a civil servant. But it's up to me to decide whether that risk, is it worth taking or not. Would I be a better person than just being an economics teacher who would be stooping low in front of immoral bosses in order to get appointments or to get advancements? I don't think that is my style. I wouldn't do that. So sportsman, teacher and all the like, I give to Caesar what is Caesar's at the right time. If Caesar deserves what I should give him. I have responsibilities towards my students. I give them all of the information. And I use the opportunity of all of economics helps me very much in analyzing certain things about the country. And I have the opportunity of imparting the true knowledge, as things are not really just theories on my students, because I am engaged. And camps activity, they don't really, they are time consuming, but they don't really, I can't complain about doing camp things, because it's not me alone doing it, we are all together. And since we are doing it with all clean conscience, the load seems not to be very much, but I find time to pay attention to all those things. What really suffers very much on my activities is the sports part, like you have said. You know, I used to be in your team, your staff team, and it's been for some time now that I don't find time to be training or to come to the training sessions. And I think that is suffering very much, but I think it's worth the sacrifice, because the time that I don't use there, I sweat somewhere else, moving around for camp or other things. So I don't complain about all of those, being involved in all of those things. I find time to satisfy all of them.
You see, this interview will not be really complete if we try to hide the real things from you. You see, the population is almost ahead of you, the leaders, in this liberation struggle. And you would have noticed that, or if you have not noticed, we have noticed, and we have contacted most of these people. The population needs, they are prepared for action, you see, but the command word is not coming from you, the leaders. So what plan, you see?
Yeah, and let me correct something here. Action can be organized. And to organize things, you need time, and you need studies, and you need educating. I have always had this false notion from people that the population is prepared. I think if the population was very, very much prepared, like they always say they are, we would have not been facing some of the difficulties we are facing. Our problem now is that the population is not as prepared as they think they are. If they were prepared, we would not be where we are. So all what we are doing on calling on action, we don't want action that will just take 1,000 young men and put them on the streets and they are shot. No. We must be able, even when we are prepared for action, it be whether violent action, to minimize the cost on us. We must not send, like if you see the way it is, we must use clean-cut strategies that would minimize costs, because if we can fight and fight another day and fight the next day and the next day, the better for us and the better for the cost. So we don't want to say because people want action and then we just take people and expose their chests to capture bullets from the dictator, just because we want to listen to their call for action. What I would say is that action would come. And I don't think this is the forum for me to discuss action with anybody. And those are strategic matters that are left to a selected few to arrange and to maybe talk about. But as far as I am concerned, I see the action coming, and the action should not be in a kind of anarchy.
Okay.
We would have to organize it, and we will have to examine and build up our own resources to be able to strike and have it effective when we strike.
Okay, Mr. Christmas, do you love music?
I love music, but unfortunately I don't find time to listen to music.
Yeah, you are some of your favorite musicians, Bob Marley or? Bob
Marley is a favorite musician to me. I don't really enjoy much in music just on the wordless hitting of rhythms and love stories of broken hearts.
But the philosophy?
But the philosophy about life. That's why I like reggae a lot. I like some of the rock music because they say things I can understand very well. And there are some guys on the African surface like Sonny Okoson, some Makossa guys like Ben Deka, who sing some of the things I happen to understand Douala, and some of his singings are very philosophical. and they please me. They make for good listening, like the small Nini running to steal money and all those things I knew he was referring. Unfortunately, I feel really very disappointed because I was a strong lover and fan of Lapiro de Manga. Lapiro de Manga was to me a very special person, and up to today when you talk of music, I always regret that Lapiro de Manga went out the way he went. The impact of the way I felt, many people used to call me a street man for loving Lapiro, but his message was so clear for anybody to have felt it. There are many intellectuals who thought that I was just as a mean person as anything to be going for the kind of what they call Bambe music. But Lapiro was a messenger. Lapiro had a message, which unfortunately he was not deep-rooted to understand really what he was to this community. And when he fell off, when he went wayward, even in my collection of poems, Partners in Prison, there is a poem that was written, me venting my frustration on him when I call him LP Judas of M.
Banga. Okay, Mr. Christmas, we thank you very much for granting us this interview.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ebini. We'll see you next time.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to ACN, the Liberation TV of Ambazonia. Ambazonia Defense Forces, the vanguards of the Ambazonia War of Independence. Stay tuned on ACN TV. We will be right back.